In conversation with Shaz A. Stewart. Shaz Stewart is an award-winning literary titan winner and five-star Reader's Choice Review author of Sky Thunder, Book 2 of the Colt Hawkins Series. Shaz Stewart is a three-time U.S. Army Bronze Star recipient and combat veteran who served 26 years in airborne infantry and special operations units worldwide. A combat sniper and veteran of Desert Storm, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Operation Enduring Freedom, Stewart later transitioned to high-threat security operation for U.S. government agencies. Following his retirement in 2017, he began writing as a means of recovery from traumatic brain injuries and severe PTSD, transforming his battlefield experiences into gripping military thrillers. Stewart's works express with authenticity, tactical depth, and adrenaline-forward storytelling, being compared to Tom Clancy and Brad Taylor. Is also the author of Cry of the Eagle and continues to engage readers with his high-intensity, mission-driven narratives. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy and excitement to have on the show today, Shaz Stewart. How are you doing today, Shaz? Welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
I'm very excited, really, to have you on the show today. I've been checked through some of your works. I'm excited we are here to sit and talk about it. So, thank you for coming up again, really. Much appreciated.
Absolutely, and you're welcome. And I'm grateful for the invite.
Yeah, yeah. So, Shaz, I need to first say that I'm taken aback by the description page of your book, Cry of the Eagle, which is a first book in the Colt Hawkins novel series on Amazon. And I would like us to start today's conversation with it by asking you what inspired the making of the book, how the book come to be, and how you eventually sit to, get into in touch with writing and publishing a book. How does it come together with the making of Cry of the Eagle?
That's a good question. So my writing journey, as you had stated in the introduction,
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with severe PTSD and traumatic brain injuries (TBI) from wounds I had sustained by being deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh,
And
wow.
part of that healing process was speaking about my experiences, which have you, I was in a really dark place after the service, after I had donned the, stopped wearing the uniform and
Mhm.
um, learning my life as a civilian. And that transition is, you can ask another veteran and they're going to have a similar story of that transition phase is really hard.
Mm,
And so I didn't know what I was going to do next. I had uh, retired from the government service altogether, and I started journaling and talking about my experiences for the healing process. That my doctors asked, tried to do this, and with more coaxing from my daughter and my wife,
yeah,
I just started journaling more and more. And then when COVID hit,
yeah,
everybody's locked down. I thought I was, what am I going to do now
yeah.
to keep busy? So I started, as I journaled more and more, I realized I was journaling pages and pages during the
Mm,
day, just really getting it out. And
yeah,
I thought, I think I could write a book. And I don't want to write a book about me. I think that's too painful. And even
yeah.
though I'm 10 years removed of wearing the uniform, I'm still not ready
Well,
to go in some of that stuff. So I was like, what do I know? I know the military, I know special ops. I think I'm going to write a book. So I just self educated myself, buried myself in reading all kinds of content and books about how to write a novel and how to do a story and how to build it. And so I just, that consumed my time.
mm,
And once I started putting, keyboard to papers per se, I realized really fast, okay, I need to set a goal. Like it was maybe 500 words a day. Every time I sit, I was going to write 500 words,
mm,
good, bad, or indifferent. I'm going to get that done. And that lasted for a week or two. And I was
well,
sitting every day getting that. trudging through that. And then one day I had a breakout session. I wrote like 12,000 words in one day.
Wow.
Just really
Wow.
broke out. And I started getting a sync going with my mind and with my words. And I wrote the book in 90 days. And
Wow.
now it was just a regurgitation. And
Wow.
so I, rewrote it, started editing, and just really starting fine tuning, knowing that I don't know where my craft is. I have nothing to gauge yet, but I've read enough books.
Wow.
I'm a very avid reader. And so,
It's interesting.
yeah, so I got it and started developing it. And the story piece came from, I don't know, some fairy dust in my brain. I really wanted to use real life events so a reader thinks, oh, wow, this could happen or it did happen. I
Yeah.
really want the authenticity, like, oh, wow,
Interesting.
and have the reader think. And if my fellow veterans, my brothers and sisters, if they could read the story and say, okay, wow, that
That's
that
exciting.
that is authentic, then as a writer, I thought, okay,
You
that would be my
fulfilled.
toughest critic. So they loved it, and I just kind of went with it, and I learned about the business piece, which is to get it published and how to publish, and
Yeah.
that is a daunting. I don't like being an editor. I hate it. I'm not an editor. So, thank goodness there's professionals out there that can edit and
Yeah.
do that for a living. And so I've done that process. And basically, as I was writing Cry of the Eagle, Sky Thunder was already writing itself. I already had the idea, started taking notes, and really, as soon as I finished Cry of the Eagle and got it out there, I started immediately with Sky Thunder, and
Oh,
it never stopped.
wow. That's quite amazing to know, really. I love your take on that. And before I love to proceed, I'd like you to show the book to the camera, just so we see what
Yeah,
it looks like. Cry in the
yeah,
Cry of the
yeah.
Eagle. And
Cry of the Eagle.
you've got a beautiful cover in there. That's quite beautiful. Quite exceptional. Would you love to talk about the making of the cover?
Well, I got published with this, and they made the cover.
Wow.
I had a vision, and they put that vision on the cut. They did it the artwork off of my vision, and so I was just like, okay, we're going to go with that. And so when we got published, we put it out there, and
Wow.
I absolutely I get more. A book has to sell itself from the rest of the books on the shelf, and I
Mm,
think the cover does itself justice. It really
absolutely.
catches your eye, but it also intrigues you enough, I think, to
Yeah.
say, okay, what is this about? And at least, hopefully, someone will pick it up and read the back cover, and the story will, captivate them.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love the cover,
Thank
particularly.
you,
It's
thank you.
amazing. Thank you for showing. And I also
Yeah,
see that you have another book titled Sky Thunder, which is a
yeah,
second book in the Colt Hawkins novel series. For readers who haven't read that yet and without giving much information away, could you have a sneak peek of what you'd expect picking up that up as well?
yeah.
I
So
think.
on Sky Thunder, as it was writing itself, I just thought I thought back of another book back in the '70s. It was
Mm.
a Vietnam book. It was called The Five Fingers, and
Oh,
basically a team. That book is a team Vietnam going into China,
oh
and
wow.
that was I loved that book growing up. I read it when I was in school, and I thought, okay, and then I just thought as I was writing Cry of the Eagle that Sky Thunder, this
Mm.
is where I could really take this story. And
Yeah.
as I was doing research, the Sky Thunder is really a real Chinese, the name of a Chinese stealth missile. And I love the name.
Oh,
And I thought, I
oh
almost thought
wow.
of a James Bond, like Skyfall and, that kind of concept. And I just thought, man, what a
Yeah.
name. And I just kind of built the story around the name and what
Oh,
it represents, which was the stealth missile.
oh
And so
wow.
I just played that in the world of Colt Hawkins, and 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 carried some of the story. I had some loose ends with Cry of the Eagle, and I did that intentionally. So I had a
Wow.
avenue to follow on and carry the reader into the next book. And I designed on this cover. I designed everything.
Wow.
I designed everything myself, trying
Wow.
to keep the Sky Thunder is kind of the warm colors. This is the cool colors, just the
Mm.
concept kind of thing. So I just wanted to do that and show a contrast. And who knows what the next book's going to look like on the cover, So
I love,
which I've already have written.
yeah, I love your take on this really, and the making of the covers are quite beautiful. And to get to know that you did it yourself, it's a plus. It's a plus itself. That's quite commendable. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Yeah. And I want us to go into the conversation of readers and feedbacks because one of the most interesting things to me as a writer is to sit back and listen to readers' feedback. And you may want to agree with me that one of the things that makes literature to be complex is the fact that it can be interpreted in different ways by different readers based on their opinions. And sometimes the readers might get the message intended by the author. Sometimes they might not get a message. Sometimes they might say several kilometers or miles far away from getting the message. And at some point, they might just hilariously misunderstand the message and interpret the book upside down. As hilariously fun as they sound, I would like to ask you, how do you feel when readers interpret your works differently than you intended? How does that make you feel?
Yeah, it makes me feel good. Some of the feedback that I've gotten has been it's very interesting. It's I never thought of that. They've opened my eyes and my
Yeah,
brain power, so to speak, as they took it this way, or they really gravitate to something in the story that, I knew it was there, but I didn't know it meant that much.
yeah,
And or really
absolutely.
captivate them. And I've realized that in some of my reviews, which
Mm.
I've gotten I've been really blessed to get a lot of positive reviews, 4-star, 5-star reviews.
Yeah,
And I'm very thankful for that. Um, how the action scenes have captivated the general reviews of my audience, my readers,
mm,
uh, where some like, okay, you can tell like some readers who are more have a vast knowledge of different genres. They're more into the character development and everything.
yes, yes,
And I get that. I get that. And as a author,
mm,
I have seen my craft get better
mm,
and how deeper my characters are getting because I'm getting more comfortable writing their feelings and their struggles and that's what gets you as a reader is you latch onto a character and you're like,
yeah,
oh my gosh,
yeah,
it's and then the story is their journey. So I get that, and at first, I'm really my action scenes are so authentic, and I used up to date tactical, skill sets and
yes, yes,
what's real, and you see that in the first book, and then the Sky Thunder has opened up a little bit more of the door, so to speak,
yeah,
uh, to the character inside the characters, and then my third book, Rogue Vengeance,
mm,
it really goes deep down into Colt and his team and their feelings. And you get
mm,
a taste of it in Sky Thunder as they're fighting for their lives in trying to get out of the country and
yeah,
how they're abandoned. But as a writer now, my writing has developed so much I
oh,
can go back now and think, oh, I should have went deeper into this or deeper in
you
that.
know,
And my readers get that. My readers have like, hey, go there more, go there more. We love this. So it's given me
yeah,
some insight. So I've done that. They're absolutely right. The readers will give you the feedback, and if
mm,
you're open enough, and I think I'm open enough and professional enough to say, yeah, let's open that box a little bit more and give you a more taste, because
Wow.
that's what I'm there for. I'm there for my readers, right? So
Yeah.
I love that about that. And I'm like I said, I'm blessed to have some great reviews, and I'm really, some of the kind words they've said. I feel very lucky, and I'm on the right track. It's just
Yeah.
validation, as an author, you're always second guessing.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty confident man through
Yeah.
everything my career, but writing will make you second guess yourself. And it's hard to put yourself out there and have a stranger give you a review, and you're not
Mm.
you think about that. But I know now that I am on the right track, and I just got to keep on developing my craft and don't give up on that. And reading, you know, like-minded authors that are in my genre, I think that gives you a
Yeah.
huge insight. And just being open. I think the more you're open, the more your craft develops, and the
Yeah.
faster it develops. And you're putting it on paper is, that is that answer, and you can see it.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that makes book conversation and book club meetings to be quite interesting, is the fact that 10 people can decide to read the same book, and by the time they come together to give a review or to talk about it, you begin to hear so many constructing ideas. And the first person review might differ from the second person review, from the third person. And it sometimes might got to wonder that, did we read the same book?
Yes,
Or it was a different book that you read that has the same title.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, there was a couple there that a reader gave me the review, and they really were captivated on just the political piece, the geopolitical piece. And I'm
Mm.
like, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great, but they loved it. And
Wow.
I never think of my books as political. I just show scenes in that realm, in that
Yeah.
environment of how those decision makings affects the people on the ground
Yeah.
that are doing the job. And that's all I was trying to do. But
Mm.
they're captivated to it, and I appreciate that. It just opens my eyes. Like, okay, I can do this a little bit more
Yeah.
in this realm, and emphasize a little bit that more on the story. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's a
so
lovely one, really. I love that too when it comes to writing. The feedbacks are always fun. Sometimes you're just like, oh, really? Well, I never thought about it that way. Well, anyway, thank you for spotting it out. That's quite beautiful. And I think
yeah,
this is one of the beauty that makes writing generally to be interesting. Yeah, you've done your part as an author. It is left for the readers to interpret it with whatever way that suits them.
that's right.
You know,
That's right.
that is now their cup of tea.
Yes, yes, absolutely, and you're absolutely right. And I hope my readers, just like any author, will start following the stories. So when the next book and the next book, and
Yeah, I
you
love
know,
that too.
and just really, and that's what I want to do. That's what we're doing right now with my website. Where
Oh,
you
interesting.
sign up for free and get into the team room, and then you're going to learn really in-depth stuff about the
Wow.
character's backstory and the
Wow.
relationships, and things like that. It's just a little nugget that maybe I'm not going to write about, or I may take pieces and put it in a story, or sprinkle it in a story, or
Mm.
in a future book. But
Yeah.
you really want to get, if you're captivated with a character, you can really, once you join the website, you can really hone in and
Yeah.
learn more. Because I have a lot of characters. I didn't realize how
Wow.
daunting of a task that
That
is,
would be.
and
Mm,
keeping up with them. And
wow.
so I'm juggling a lot of characters there, and but I've learned, but I'm liking it. I'm really like it. Gives me endless possibilities of things to do in the future,
Mm,
with all the characters I have created in the books.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
so I,
amazing. That's amazing. That gives you room to build more on the characterization and let you know what story you want to explore on. And if possible, you even want to have like say standalone, you may want to know, okay, which standalone, or you want to tell an old story of a particular character. Okay, let me talk this. So that's one thing I love about series novel. The fact that you can always carry on from one part to another. And sometimes, because I've read a lot of series novels in the past, and sometimes when I get to it, I'm like, I would love to know more about this particular character. What happened to him? I mean,
Yeah.
you stopped talking about him in series four. What happened? And now we are in series six. I need to hear about him. Please,
That's right.
hello, dear author. What happened to this particular character? Will there be a book coming up? You know, it's a very beautiful thing.
It is.
Like you're watching a
It is.
movie and one character skip off. You'll be like, yeah, I need to know what happens to this person, how the story is continued and unfolds.
Yes. And
Beautiful.
I just had a review last week and it said, well, what happened with this? I wish you would expand. I did that for a reason because in book 3, you're going to learn a lot
Yeah,
more.
about
I
that
left
person.
that open because that is part of the premise of the 3rd book.
Mm,
But as I've always thought, I didn't know how I have never put a number on how long this series is going to be.
yeah, it's
But I
unplanned.
knew book 4 was going to be the pivotal piece. And I've already written
Wow.
it. I'm almost finished and it's over 100,000 words.
Oh,
And
wow.
it is the pivotal piece, but there are things in book 1 and book 2 that really like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this, or I always wondered what this
Mm,
is. And I've really honed in on it and gave the reader closure in
yeah,
book 4. So now you understand what has been going on all this
all
time. And
this
nobody,
time.
it's a left hook to the reader. It's
Oh,
so no one's seen this coming. But I'll give a clue. Use an analogy of James Bond. What
oh,
James
wow.
Bond? So James Bond is always looking for this criminal organization called Spectre.
Mm,
It's always in the movies in some piece. All through the '60s, it's Spectre, Spectre.
mm,
Colt Hawkins finds his own Spectre, it's they're called something else, of course, but
oh,
it's the underbelly of everything that has been going on since then. But
oh,
that really comes to fruition in book 3 and book 4. You're like, oh my gosh. And I still read it. I reread it, parts of it yesterday because I was writing, and it was like, man, this is going to be awesome. The reader has no
amazing.
idea. And I get really excited about it. And if I'm still getting excited about it after reading it and editing it, a dozen times, I know I'm hopeful that the reader will be too.
That's amazing. I mean, I love your answer to this question, really. It's quite beautiful and it's quite amazing, quite compelling as well. And I wanted to
Thank
ask you, how far are we going in this particular series? Apart from Cry of the Eagle and Sky Thunder, how is it going so far with the other series? Which one are you currently working on? How much
So,
longer do we need to wait? A year or
okay.
5 years?
No, 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 no. There's several factors in that. To answer your question, book 3 is already ready,
Wow.
already edited. I can
Wow.
release it tomorrow if I want
Oh,
to.
wow. Interesting.
And that is called Rogue Vengeance.
Oh,
And
good vengeance.
it's a carry on of Sky Thunder, of course, and
Mm,
Cry of the Eagle. My plan
mm.
was to release each book every year on Veterans Day, November 11th.
Oh, wow.
Um, so right now, it may be November 11th, but I'm actually starting to send out some query letters to agents and
Agents.
to see. Now, of course, that will throw if I get represented as with an agent. Of course, that
Mm,
could throw that all off. It could be another year or so for that to be put on the shelf,
yeah.
published. But if not, I probably will put it out November 11th, Christmas time kind of thing. I like to do November 11th, but you got to backtrack. You got a backward plan. If
Mm,
I'm going to do, am I going to promote it? Well, that's 90 days out, and that has to be promoted. You got to
yeah.
think the business piece on
Yeah.
that. And
Absolutely.
is Sky Thunder still selling well or doing things? Then I need to put that put
Yes.
that next book. Wait a while.
Yes.
So there's a lot of ifs on that,
Mm.
but that is finished and it's on the shelf ready to go.
Wow.
The next book, which I'm finishing up, I've just finished. I have two more chapters left. It's the pivotal piece. It's called The Price of Freedom.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's I'm over 100,000 words right now. I
Wow.
don't know what the final. I'm figuring probably 110,000, 115,000 words. Um, but it's forming up to the climax right now, and it's such a busy climax. I have to stage it the right way,
Mm.
and but it's about done. And then I was going to take a break because
Wow.
I have been writing for since 2021 nonstop.
Wow.
Uh, but I had a vision and I had an idea.
Mm.
I am going to do a one-off book, and it's called "The Ties That Bind," and it is World War II,
Oh, wow.
and it's about three soldiers, two British and one American soldier, and how they kind of intertwine through their careers during World War II and then post World War II.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's more about the British SOE, Special Operations Executive, and which is MI6, becomes MI6,
Mm.
and the American OSS, who later becomes the CIA, and how they start off as soldiers and then they end up being spies for their country, clandestine services for their country, and how that is their the countries join and how they mesh, but how their countries bring them together in their careers. And
Mm.
I'm really excited about this book. It's something
That's
different,
interesting.
but it's almost a historical fiction. I've
Wow.
done a lot of research and I've already outlined the first six chapters. So
Wow.
I'm pretty excited about that piece. Um, so I'm after I finish The Price of Freedom, I'm probably gonna, which will probably be this spring. I will go ahead and go start this summer with this World War II novel.
Wow. Sounds like you've got a lot ongoing. I hope you find some time to sleep.
Oh, I do, I do. Yeah, I can get with it, but I have a lot of ideas. I really want to write, believe it or not,
Mm.
a fantasy Dungeons and Dragons book, a series.
Wow.
I want to write
That
that
would be
series.
great.
Yeah, I've already got a 65-page outline
Oh,
story of
interesting.
the series. It'll be like a mini series, uh,
Oh,
and I really, really, I was a Dungeons and Dragons back in high
oh,
school level,
oh, I see.
the first generation. Now it's I don't know fifth generation, but
Oh,
I incorporated all that and like okay, I like some of that stuff. I love the movies,
yeah,
you know, of all that from Dungeons
yeah.
and Dragons and Legend and all that from the 80s. And so I love all that stuff. So yeah, I'm going to eventually write that, but there's too much going on with Colt Hawkins in
Mm,
that series, and I'm really loving where this is going.
mm.
And I've already got book 5 outlined, and book 5 is going to be called Archangel from Colt Hawkins, and there's a
That's
lot going on in
interesting.
that. Yeah,
As
so
as
there's a lot going on.
Yeah, that's amazing to be frankly speaking, and to know that you've got a lot on going. Really, it's got me thinking. As because as you're speaking, some questions were chopping into my head. It got me thinking how you were able to derive inspiration towards the making of these novels. Because sometimes it always surprised me how writers would sit, especially novelists like yourself, how they would sit down and begin to form words together in their head and craft words that makes sentences, sentences that makes paragraphs that makes pages, pages that make chapters, chapters that make eventual novel. And it got me thinking, where are these words coming from? I mean, how does this just drop in all of a sudden? Like it got me thinking, how exactly They got the inspirations and ideas from one way or the other. And as far as writing is concerned, I like to ask you too. How exactly do you get your inspirations and ideas? And also, I think I have another one in my head too. I know you served in the army for more than 26 years. Does that impact your writing career in any way? Does that contribute to how your stories are being told, etc.?
It does. I'm researching constantly, and I'm taking notes, and I may hear something, and I'll just write a note,
Mm,
and I'll look at a scene. But I'm watching movies, and I dissect. I'm a huge movie fan, and I dissect
yeah.
these movies and look at, oh, look how this writer wrote this.
Yeah.
Of course, right now, Taylor Sheridan is one of the best writers on the screen right
Yes.
now. And I
Yes.
love everything he does. Well,
Interesting.
my wife is in love with those series. And
Wow.
so I look at like 1923 right now, and it can be any genre. And I just
Mm,
look at how they're crafting that. And I'm so, inspirational about that. And
mm,
so I was just watching a documentary, and that started the whole World War II thing. And what I did, I had a dream, and it was just a tidbit of a dream of just two adults running in the rain, and this American soldier asking for a lift in a car. Now that was it. That was it.
wow.
It's 40s era, and it's London, and I just
Mm,
and the dream came from I was watching a documentary about Churchill. So that's where
oh.
it came from. I understand that because I was just watching the documentary before I fell asleep. So
Mhm,
the dream came, but then
mhm.
I just built off of that dream.
That's
And
beautiful.
and so I took a day and just really started thinking like what can I do? And I started researching and saw these figures of all these. I love to write about strong women characters in my book. It's not about men, it's women too. Whether they're at home or they're serving or they're a support system, the character is in
Yeah.
something. I like to write about strong women. And I just, I was reading about this spy that was in the French Resistance. Her name's
Mm,
Vivian Hall. And I was just like, oh, this is it. This is the centerpiece of the story and how these
sorry.
characters is through her. So that's how it kind of started. But I had read, in your workspace, in your writing,
Mm,
is your workspace needs to be where you can be creative. So I have windows. The shades are shut right now, but I have windows that look out over on the mountains, the Smoky Mountains of
mm.
Tennessee. It's the Appalachian Mountains. I live in the foothills, so I have a panoramic view of 100 miles of the mountains, and
Wow.
I can look out that window. I have a salt rock. It's real calm. I'm just collective. I have my service dog with me. She usually lays down beside me and goes to sleep. The cat's walking around here somewhere, and it's just, I have no noise except
Mm,
what's in my head. And regardless if it's anything that just like, okay, inspires me. Like there's a line that a friend said to me the other day,
mm.
and I'm going to build a story off a scene in a
Wow.
story from this. And it was one of the loneliest places for a woman is on a church pew by herself. It caught me. It really caught me. And I was like, oh, that's a scene. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know if she's mourning a loss. I don't know if she's praying for her loved one to come back. I don't know. But
Mm,
that line caught me. So I envisioned it. And how would I write it? And I do that all the time. I look at action scenes and I'm like, how would I write that? Turn the sound off and just watch the scene and then describe it. And
oh,
it's just a tool that I use.
yeah.
Like I know I need a car chase scene. I'll look at car chase scenes and I got things in my head already, but how do I want to put that down? So what do I see? And I start typing what I see and I play back and pause and play back and type it out. And then that's just a generalization. Then I
Yeah.
formulate it. I vision, I've been blessed. I have done professional driving schools for
Mm.
my work. And so I know what it takes to be behind the wheel doing things. So I hit on that, and I did that with Cry of the Eagle. What's the
Wow.
dynamics, the driving dynamics for this to happen? How does that driver make a car do that? And
Mm.
this is what you're doing. And it's an action scene. It's taking you from being chased to what's going on in the car and what he's
Mm.
manipulating the car and his skill set to get the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. So it just takes me. It just takes me there. And I pride myself, not there's authors out there that has some background to themselves with this, but there's not many that has a lot of combat experience. So I
Mm.
why not use that? Use that.
Yeah.
That's where my healing process kind of comes into play, because
Mm.
I'll share this. The very first lines of Sky Thunder, Colt is having a dream. It's a flashback.
Mm.
That sniper mission was a real sniper mission that I conducted in Iraq.
Yeah.
That's a real sniper mission. And I there were many nights I stood awake on that mission because of
Yeah.
that mission. I had flashbacks. I had problems with that. Now I can talk about it easily. I've That wound is healed.
Mm.
Sometimes it's like ripping a band-aid off, but I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
now
wow.
I I wrote about it and shared that, but I use that as a dream that Colt's having.
Mm.
There's a sign there with the character with Colt. He's having a flashback from
Mm.
all the stuff he's done, and what does
Wow.
the future lay with him with that? So it's about some mental health too. We're not all Supermen. You know,
Wow. That's a lot you've shared, really. That's quite a trunk load.
there's a lot there. That's for sure.
Right, that's quite a trunk load you've shared with us. And I so much love your take on that. Quite beautiful, quite amazing stories into the making of your book and how you weave your characters, how you get your ideas hilariously. Like I always mention, ideas comes to writers sometimes in the most weirdest way, in the most unimaginable way, the way you could never have thought of it to come through. You mentioned having it to come from dream or so many other ways. I've got so many people say, yeah, I got ideas from what I've been through personally, from my life experiences. I got ideas from what I've seen around me, in my society, etc. I got ideas from conversation that I Heath drops on that doesn't belong to me, gossip, etc. To take for an instance. And sometimes they're like,
Yeah,
yeah, I got ideas too from stories of friends, of family members, or stories I heard other people share that was quite touching to me, or maybe from a news outlet I read, or maybe from so many. So it's always come from a different manner. And some will like, yeah, say, of course, hilariously from dream. And I woke up and I myself personally have written too from dreams, based off dreams
yeah,
that I have. And I'll be like, oh, okay, that's amazing. And somebody just, okay, pick up your pen, just start writing based on the dream you just had. Very clear, distinct, beautiful, quite evocatively. Yeah, it's quite beautiful hearing your take about that and how your, writing come to be. Thanks for sharing.
yeah. You're welcome. And you just said it. It's about being open enough, knowing who you are. You got to
Yeah,
know who you are. Where's your center? Where's your headspace and timing?
yeah,
And if you are receptive to be the best person you can be,
yeah,
and to change or to modify yourself to be the best that you can present yourself, to
yeah,
be the good person that I hope that most people want to be anyway,
yeah,
then stories will touch you. Things will
absolutely.
come to you like you've never been before because you're open to it. You're not closed off.
Absolutely.
And
Oh,
it's your
wow.
energy. And that's, you mentioned my energy. That's why my energy is there. I'm open. I'm excited, not only about writing and talking about my
You're
my
fun.
writing, but I've met a new friend across the pond that knows something I don't, and
Yeah,
and everybody knows something you don't. And
absolutely.
I'm just my ear is ready to ping on anything that I gravitate to or touch me or it's a one line that someone said, and oh, That's a scene.
Yeah.
It's to me. I think I relate that to songwriters. People
Mm.
who are musicians. They hear a line or they see something. Oh, that's a song, and they'll
Yeah.
write a lyric about it, or they hear
Yeah.
something. They can just go.
Mm.
And I I have, knock on wood, I have not had any writer's block going on 5 years. I don't have a writer's. I'm just like bam, 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 and I learned something. I didn't know. I thought I just thought this would be easy to do,
Mm.
and I started doing it, implementing it to get my mindset. But I read that Hemingway did this. So after I finish writing,
Yeah.
if I'm done for the day, like today, for instance, I'm going to write, but I'm going to read and edit everything I wrote yesterday or
Yeah.
the last time I wrote.
Yeah.
Well, I found out Hemingway did this, but he did it from the very start of his book, and he would do everything that he's written before, and
Mm.
then he'd start writing, and that gets you in your frame of mind and your creativity.
Absolutely.
And so I use that. So once I finish writing, I'll put a minor edit,
Mm.
punctuation, stuff like that. I don't
That's
go
great.
really edit. I'll wait till the next day so I can really edit and get my train of thought again. And it goes back to your center, and it goes back to being your
Yeah.
energy and being open.
Absolutely. I love your take. I really enjoy your answers to these questions. It's
Thank
quite educative, quite instructive, and very fun. Yeah. Yeah. Before I go home, before we wrap up, I'd like you to show both books again to the camera, just so
you.
we say, in case of readers who are just getting to catch up again with what they
Yeah.
look like from
Let me
that
get that.
cry of the eagle to sky thunder. Beautiful covers you've got in there. Yeah,
Let me get
thank you. I would like you to share with us if you have any sort of advice for upcoming and struggling writers who would love to publish a book, and also where interested readers can get a copy of your books on.
Sure. I think one of the most important things that I see, I look at a lot of blogs and stuff from writers and struggling writers and
Yeah.
things of that nature. They're quick to ask questions instead of researching it on their own. They want a
Mm,
quick answer. Don't,
mm,
because you're going
exactly.
to, if you ask 10 people, you're going to get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
Research it yourself. Research your genre. If you're whatever genre, know the guidelines by the literary world of your genre.
Mm,
What's acceptable for your book? Is it 60 to 100,000 words? Is
yeah.
it 75,000 to 120,000 words? What's
Mm,
acceptable? Know the criteria for the craft, and research, and find your own way. I call it my battle rhythm.
mm,
Find your way to get your battle rhythm. I explained a lot with my environment, what I do to get myself in a creative mood.
mm,
Um, and I can't stress enough, I think everybody should start off and outline and plan your book, your chapters, your characters, build those character sheets, do the basics, do the foundation. And later on, as your craft develops, you may become a panzer where you're just writing off the top of your head and no form or anything, but you've got to develop a
mm,
base. You've got to develop a base and just research and learn. If you got a question, find the answer yourself.
mm,
I see too many people dependent, and they're stuck, and they get stuck because they got too many answers in their head and what's right and wrong. And so learn your craft and learn your what's acceptable in the literary world in your genre. Learn
mm.
the
Yeah.
the criteria. And then for my book, you of course Amazon, Barnes and Noble, but Charles Stewart author.com is my website. You can buy my books there. We're going to set up a thing on press releases. We're going to
Wow.
have all my press release stuff, all my reviews, and then we're going to have the team room in the near future develop where readers and fans can join into the team room for free and learn the ins and outs of Colt Hawkins and more about my story, more about my background, stuff that I don't share to the public a lot, unless, maybe a speaking event, but just some backstory stuff on me and my characters and how I developed Colt and how did I develop, Liberty, stuff like that. So, and 90% of my characters are real people that I've worked with or they're my friends. And when the very last Colt Hawkins book that comes out, I'm going to tell all about who is who and who they were in real life. And so, it's going to be interesting. I don't know when that book will be. It might be a few years from now. It might be a few books before that. But please, I encourage everybody, please join charlesstewartauthor.com and sign up and follow me. And there's a thing in there you can ask me questions and anything. And I'm very open and open to anything. And I'm all about helping an author. There's a difference between a writer and an author, and the author's book. You know?
Absolutely.
And I'm open to help anybody, and but you got to do the work yourself at the end of the day. So
thank you very much for your lovely advice, and I'm hoping that viewers, even including myself, would love to utilize it. And I also left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Charles Stewart's books directly on Amazon, on Barnes& Nobles, on his website, and also on other platforms. I also left a link to his social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Shaz, for accepting the invitation to be featured in P English Literature. I must say this is more than awesome. Very great, quite exciting, so lively, interesting, captivating, full of laughter, and great vibes and energy. And it's so great having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure as well.